Hey everybody, we're on to the 8th movie in the Criterion collection, John Woo's The Killer from 1989. Wow, spoiler, great film. Uh, really good time. I haven't actually watched a lot of John Woo. I checked through his filmography and I have seen Mission Impossible 2, which I did a WTF cinema of because the plot is... Eh. But that's the only one of his that I've seen. I came into this knowing that John Woo likes guns and doves. That was as much as I knew, and I was right. He every action scene is 1,000 bullets flying through the air, and there's doves all over the place. It is so good. The action is intense. The characters are likable. It is a very good action film that is approachable by modern audiences. You can even find an English dub of this. If that's your thing, an English dub does exist if for some reason foreign films don't work for you. If you like the John Wick movies, you might want to check this one out. It's very good. I don't have a whole lot of like film school-esque stuff to talk about. It does a good job of mixing the intense action sequences with lower paced sequences, which you need to do, right? Very few films have ever accomplished non-stop action because if a movie keeps you on the edge of your seat for too long, eventually you get uncomfortable on the edge of your seat and you're going to just slide back. You become desensitized to constant action. You need peaks and valleys in order to keep action interesting. Probably one of the best examples I can give you is Fury Road. Fury Road by George Miller is essentially a feature-length film that is just a car chase from beginning to end, almost entirely. But even in that, there are lulls. There are slow moments where characters have conversation and character growth and dialogue, so that when the next round of action comes, it can hit us fresh. Right? It's a little palate cleanser. This movie does that very well. And in fact, even some of the non-action sequences are very tense and well made. There is one, I guess I should briefly do the setup of this movie. The main thrust of this movie is Jeff is a hired assassin who works for the Triad. The Triad is going to be basically the Chinese mafia. On a job, he accidentally blinds a woman who is an innocent bystander. She's too close to his gun when he has to fire. Her eyesight is severely damaged. And essentially, there's a ticking clock on her getting a cornea transplant before she's blind permanently. This upsets Jeff, and he decides to take one last job for the Triad so that he can afford to pay for her surgery, and then he's going to retire because he's had it with this game. Except you don't retire from the Triads, so they are out to end him rather than pay him. Meanwhile, there is a police detective who's kind of a loose cannon and operates on intuition, who is trying to catch Jeff. The movie spends as much time focused on this detective as it does our character, to the point where you could reasonably argue that either one of them is actually the main character of this film. Whether or not the assassin is a good guy, again, you could actually argue either side of that pretty decently. And by the end, you could argue either side of that with the cop as well. So that's our basic setup. There is one of the best scenes, I think. That's not an action scene. The action scenes are great. Just massive shootouts, big stunts, people falling and crashing into things, bullets flying, people sliding in chairs and taken out. The action is impeccable. But there's a beautiful scene where Jeff goes to the almost blind girl's apartment. She can barely see. She can kind of see shapes and shadows. And the cop has tracked him down there. And the cop and Jeff have guns at each other the entire time. Both of them waiting for the other one to make a slip and then gun them down. And the whole time, They are trying to convince the girl that nothing harmful's going on. We're just old friends catching up, making sure that she doesn't accidentally feel the guns that they're holding on each other. Would you like some tea? Sure, we'll have some tea. And the whole time they've got guns trained on each other, just waiting for a microscopic slip. It is not an action sequence. And in fact, there's a lot of comedy in the sequence. But there's also so much tension because we've established by this point in the movie, people will get shot. 1 second of hesitation, and one of them is going down. So it's just very good. It is a great action film. I would like to see more John Woo. And I have a feeling I will. I don't have much else to say about this. I will say one other thing, actually. I don't know if it's because it's a Chinese film, which I don't have a lot of experience with, or if it's just John Woo himself. But one of my issues when it comes to films, and I love films, obviously, but one of the issues I have is when you know them well enough, a lot of them are very predictable, right? A good example is a rom-com. If you've seen a handful of romantic comedies, then you know they all kind of follow the same basic formula, right? Guy and girl meet, a relationship starts to develop, then there's a misunderstanding or miscommunication of some point, and they separate and they don't talk to each other, and then they come back to each other, right? That's how that story always goes. A lot of movies are actually that predictable when you've exposed yourself to enough of them, when you know the mechanics of stories. I am rarely surprised by movies. And I don't generally expect to be, although it is one of the reasons I seek out bad movies or obscure, strange movies, because one of the things that makes a movie bad is often that it doesn't follow the rules that we feel like it should. It doesn't do things the way we think it should. Now, this isn't the only thing that makes a movie bad, but it is one of the things that gets a movie labeled bad, is if it just feels wrong when you're watching it. We've talked about language of cinema. If the whole movie is in a very strange accent to you, or you don't understand half the words being used, regardless of whether it's a good film or not, you're going to feel like it's bad. So one of the reasons I seek out these bad movies is because bad movies are more likely to surprise me and do something unexpected than something that comes out of Hollywood, by and large. As this movie went on, I realized I had no clue how it was going to end. Because arguably our main character, the assassin Jeff, he's an assassin for the Chinese mafia. He's killed a lot of people. He doesn't hesitate to kill. Now, he's shown to have compassion and to be a decent person, but that's not the same as being a good person. And so, as I'm watching the movie, I don't know if he's going to get a happy ending or a tragic one. Because as our main character, who is pursuing a righteous goal in helping this girl get the procedure she needs to restore her eyesight, right? That tells us he should get his happy ending. He's a professional killer. He should come to justice. He should get his just rewards. And the way the movie played, I honestly wasn't sure how this story was going to end. I'm not going to tell you how it ends. But it was very delightful for me to be unsure what was going to happen, because I could have laid out either path as being a valid ending to this story. So I will say that it kept me guessing a little bit, which I liked. The action was impeccable. I highly recommend it. Honestly, of the 8 movies I've seen so far, and none of them have been complete duds, this has been the best. It was very well done. I liked it a lot. So what is next? Let's take a look at my list here and pretend that it wasn't in front of me this whole time. Number 7, number 8, number 9. Here we go. Hard Boiled, a 1992 Hong Kong film by John Woo, starring the same main character. Well, okay. I I kind of wish I was getting something else as a palate cleanser in between, but I also don't think that when it comes to the Criterion collection that the I'm going by the order in which they release them, but I don't feel like that order is actually important to them. Right? How else am I supposed to do this? What order am I supposed to go with? I'll just go with the order they were released. But I don't think that the order that they were added to the collection is significant, so the fact that there's two John Woos next to each other tells me they probably just got rights to both of them at the same time. But, yeah, cool. I'm doing another John Woo film. You know what I will do as a palate cleanser, though? I need to watch a really terrible movie to write a new WTF Cinema review. I promised you one. I don't think it'll be out before the end of the year, but I will at least have it scripted before the end of the year, and that's half the battle. Anyway, I will see you guys. Thank you for sticking around. Bye.